The next speaker is Brad Dacus, and he is the president of the Pacific Justice Institute. And in a nutshell, if there's some nutty wacko law out there, the Pacific Justice Institute is leading the fight against it. So Brad Dacus has been in the paper quite a bit. He's been in the LA Times, or he's been up in Sacramento fighting what's known as the Gender Insanity Bills, which is SB 323, which takes away the tax exemption for any group that ranges Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, religious schools, Little League, if they don't conform to some nebulous lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, LGBT, BLT, so that's what's important. The three initials is the PJI is leading the fight against those. And they have an excellent, most awesome website, genderinsanity.org. It's a great site. So also as of Monday, the PJI is leading the fight against the atheists in Lake Elsinore who are fighting the Veterans Memorial simply because it has a cross and a Star of David on it. So from PJI, we put out envelopes on the tables, and we also have envelopes up here for PJI. Please take as many as you want. Take them to your organizations, your friends. 5, 10, 20 bucks matter. Please sign up for their email alerts. So if I could have Brad come up here, Brad Dacus. Talk is cheap, so here's my 20 bucks for PJI. This is my beer money for next month. Again, I'll be going around. We have those pieces of paper on the table. We have a question and answer after about 20 minutes. Please keep them brief and to the point and make them legible. Anyway, so thank you and welcome, Brad Dacus.
It's great to be here. How many of you guys have heard of the Pacific Justice Institute before? Raise your hands. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. It's great to be here. I just want to say it's really hard to follow someone like Tim here. I mean, I do think that you need to work a little bit, just ignore this one. You need to work a little bit more on your passion and sincerity. You gotta connect. You gotta know you're really, anyway. One thing I like about him, in all seriousness, is that he is for real. He is the real thing. There's not a marketing company that has been coaching him on what to say and how to do, and do this issue but don't do that. He is the real deal. And I am very excited to call him my friend, and I really appreciate all you're doing and trying to take back California for California. So, thank you. Now, we at Pacific Justice Institute have lots of challenges that we're facing, but it's our challenges. It's a challenge that we're facing together as we move forward. And there's so many I could talk about as far as cases and things, but we have so many recent things that have come up. I'm going to focus more on the recent. Let me start, before we talk about the gender insanity cases, I want to talk about something else that is very relevant. It deals with the pending outcomes of Prop 8 and the Defense of Marriage Act. Those are expected, they could be any day now. They will be coming down this month, in a matter of days. People ask me all the time, oh, how do I think they're going to turn out? And I'm usually wrong, so I'm not sure I want to say anything, because the courts always surprise me so much. But for example, like Proposition 8, I'm somewhat optimistic that I think we're going to prevail on Proposition 8. I do. And that's a good thing. The Defense of Marriage Act, I'm afraid that the court's going to strike that down. And that's a real shame, because it's been the responsibility of government not to fight it, but to defend it, right? That's our federal law. Well, what happened after it became law? President Bill Clinton signed into law. It was passed nearly unanimously by the House and the Senate. What happens? Lawsuits are filed to challenge it. 18 federal lawsuits are filed to challenge this law. And what happened? The Department of Justice under Bill Clinton, they stepped up to defend this new law. because that's what they're supposed to do. That's their responsibility, right? And then we had the President Bush, George W. Bush. He, once again, knew his responsibility, the executive branch, is to defend the law. And with the Department of Justice, that's what they did. They defended the law. And then we had President Obama. And he was sworn into office, and he was defending the law until he changed his mind. And then he told the U.S. Department of Justice, whose responsibility it is to defend the laws passed by we, the people, through our representatives. He told them not only to stop defending it, but to fight it. And 33 attorneys who were in the process of defending it for we, the people, literally were commanded to go over to the other side and join the other side and start fighting against it with all the resources our tax dollars could give them. And I look at that as an atrocity, a terrible atrocity. And we at Pacific Justice Institute realized we needed to hold these individuals accountable, including the holders. So we went ahead and we looked at the model rules of professional responsibility in all 50 states that govern lawyers and our ability to practice law. Among those rules says it's never okay for an attorney to switch sides in the middle of a lawsuit. It's never okay, ever. So what we've done at Pacific Justice, to the surprise of many, including Eric Holder, is we have filed complaints with the state bar associations against all 33 of those attorneys in the 12 states that are there's one attorney I forgot to mention, Eric Holder, who's also included in that. If we have our way, he will lose his license. I am somewhat optimistic because we at Pacific Justice, we don't just file things to file things. We have too much to deal with. We file things to win. And I'm very optimistic on this action to hold them accountable. Why? Because it is imperative that the executive branch understand, the Department of Justice understand, that it is their responsibility to defend and uphold the laws passed by we the people. If they don't, our laws aren't worth much. By the way, what do you call a leader? Just sort of throw this out here. What do you call a leader of a nation that decides arbitrarily what laws they want to respect and not respect?
A tyrant.
A dictator. You said it, not me. Okay, there you go. But it's really pretty darn close when you look at it in view of this light, of how they're not standing up for the laws that we work hard through the process of Republican form of government. Now, in addition to that, I want to talk about some things on a state level that I think is very important as well, and that is SB 323. Let's touch on that. That's known as the Anti-Boy Scouts bill. Do you think anything could ever have a chance of passing anywhere when it's known as the Anti-Boy Scouts bill? I mean, really, you would think so, right? I mean, Anti-Boy Scouts bill? That's like the Anti-Grandma bill. I mean, doesn't make sense. And yet, that's really what this is all about. How many of you used to be Boy Scouts? Raise your hand. Very good. Now, ladies, you didn't raise your hand, and I am outraged that other good ones. Are you taking pictures? I give you a good pose. I just thought I'd make it easy. So I thought this is one of my favorite. But, so anyway, this bill, this legislation, what it says is it says that all nonprofit youth organization, youth-based organization that primarily serve youth under 18, that all of these nonprofit organizations, this has passed, will have to be willing to hire and bring on those who are openly homosexual and those who are openly transsexual. And if they don't, and if they refuse to, they will lose their state tax exempt status. And what that means is is that anyone who donates to them will not be able to write it off their state income tax like they could other charities. It also means any donations coming into the Boy Scouts or these organizations, that they have to pay tax on it to the state of California. They have to give it, it's like a punitive measure to the state of California in order to continue to function. It's sort of like organized crime, like you have to pay money to these entities in order to exist. And that's sort of what it reminds me of. And yet, that's what this legislation will do. Now, what groups does it apply to? Some of you say, well, Boy Scouts are nice, but at least it doesn't apply to, well, actually, yeah, it applies to the 4-H club. But how about the Special Olympics? It applies to Special Olympics. What about, well, at least like faith-based organizations, at least they're protected, right? Like Young Life, Youth for Christ, Awanas, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. No, there's no exemption at all for even religious-based organizations that have sincere religious convictions about what they feel is the loving and best way to lead young people. Many of whom who have one parent, have no dad, they're in the inner cities, and they're being told how to do their job, and they're going to be punished severely. Now you're probably wondering, okay, what chance does this actually have to become a law? Well, guess what? It was voted on in the state Senate. And the state Senate voted 27 to 9 to approve it. All the 27 who voted for it were Democrats. All the 9 who voted against it were Republicans. Not that this is a partisan issue. Maybe it is, but it shouldn't be. Because mainstream America, whether you're Republican or Democrat, I don't think would be in favor of this. And so this is a real travesty to everyone on both sides of the aisle when it comes to those who believe in what's really best for a free country and a free society. And most of what's best for the kids. People will serve them in a free country the way they would want to serve these kids. Now, what about AB 1266? AB 1266. This is legislation that, well, says that if a boy goes to school, it goes all the way from kindergarten all the way through high school, but if a boy at any time says that he feels like he's a girl, then he is immediately entitled to use the girls' bathrooms instead of the boys'.
Oh, no.
Oh, it gets worse. He's also entitled to use the girls' locker rooms and the girls' showers, just as if he is a girl. I call this the emperor has no clothes doctrine policy. I mean, because that's how ludicrous it is. Girls, you know, if a boy comes in, if so-and-so comes in here, just act like he's a girl and taking his showers, just pretend that he's a girl. He feels that he's a girl, so we all will treat him as a girl, and we'll all act as if he's a girl, even if he's a boy. Now, you know, I was once a young teenager. All I can say is this really asking for a lot of problems. But it's also going to asking for a lot of problems for the young boy or the young girl, for example, who's having these issues. Because gender identity disorder is a psychiatric condition, according to DMS-4. It is a mental illness. It's not something that you'll find in the med school manual on diseases, physical diseases to cure. It's not a physical disease. It is a psychological illness, and it's something real that some kids have. Partly because of the absence of a father, partly because of sexual child abuse, partly because of just a number of different factors that come into play. But it's a real condition, and we need to have love and compassion for these kids. And that's why we at Pacific Justice Institute are so strongly against AB 1266. Because it is so cold-hearted. You have a young boy with these struggles, and instead of having a policy that makes it easy for them to get counseling with the support of their parents, and so they can get help, instead it does the opposite. It says, no, we're going to accentuate that confusion on day one. accentuate it. And even, so if the parents don't want it, too bad. If the child psychiatrist has been working with the child, thinks this is harmful, potentially deadly, and maybe even inducing of suicide, too bad. There's no exemption for what the parents want. There's no exemption for what the psychiatrist wants. There's no exemption, for that matter, for even what the child may feel that they want who's struggling with this issue. This is the mandate. This is what will be carried out. You know, even San Francisco, their school district there has a policy that says if someone's having a struggle with gender identity, then after a year of assessment and counseling and review, then we can begin the process of potentially recognizing them as the opposite gender with the team focus, etc., etc., etc. This is just cold-hearted, it's outrageous, and it's going to cause a lot of harm, we believe, to a lot of young kids, much less those who are in the shower and really don't want someone from the opposite sex in their shower stalls with them. I think, it sounds almost like something from Saturday Night Live, something really way out, you know what I mean? Except a conservative version of it. Yet this is pending. Now, where is it at? Okay, the State Assembly has passed it. It's already passed the State Assembly. It is now on its way to the State Senate. And I'm very concerned, as I know Tim is as well, that this has a very good chance of making it through the State Senate. And that's why we need to be outspoken, and we need to be accentuate our grassroots, and we need to get involved. Then we are, right now, we have Pacific Justice, make something really clear. If these become law, we intend to challenge both of them. If they become law, I don't want to have to challenge these in federal court. I'd rather stop them right now. But if they do become law, then we are most assuredly planning on strategically challenging these in court. I'm really strongly resolved on that. Do we challenge legislation? Well, yeah, actually, there's a new law that went into effect January 1st. SB 1172. Remember this one? This is the one that says that if a young person under 18 is struggling with same-sex attraction, that it's illegal for them to get any counseling from any licensed counselor anywhere in California at any time, including clergy and pastors and priests that are licensed counselors. If that counseling in any way is geared towards steering them away from same-sex attraction, or get this, or same-sex sexual activities. This is now the law in California. And we at Pacific Justice Institute, we don't get angry over these things. We just sue. And that's what we did. We brought this into federal court into Sacramento, and I'm pleased to announce that after much oral argument and briefing, a federal judge, as many of you are aware, in a 38-page opinion, came down with a decision to grant our motion for preliminary injunction on behalf of our clients. We argued this, we prevailed, it's on appeal to the Ninth Circuit. We've already argued it before the Ninth Circuit. And we have to find out whether they're going to allow this preliminary injunction to hold. Even if it doesn't, we're taking it to a full trial on the merits, back down to the federal district court, and then it'll be back up again up to the Ninth Circuit as well, probably. So that's where we're at, and please keep us in your prayers. And by the way, if you don't, how many get our press releases, our case updates via mail or email? Raise your hand. Okay, some over here, very good. I'm getting old, so my vision can't see back to hands as much, but if you'd like to, please make sure you fill out on your tables. Have everyone got that information on your tables? Pacific Justice, y'all have that? I see some heads nodding. Okay, very good. Please fill that out so we can make sure we keep you updated with what we're doing. If you want to support us, fantastic, great. You can check those boxes. But at the very least, I'm encouraging everyone here to fill that out so we keep you updated on what's going on. You guys care. I'm a Tea Party member. I know how we are. You guys care about this, so please fill that out so we keep you updated. It means a great deal to me personally, and so thank you. Now, what about war memorials? Let's talk about that real quickly. How many of you have served in our armed forces for our nation? Raise your hand. Awesome. I greatly appreciate that. You know, I have an Uncle Bill, and my Uncle Bill served in World War II, and he's still alive, and he shared with me some of his story, incredible story. He was one that landed on the beaches of Normandy. Wow. And he's the one that landed on the beach that, of the 20,000, only 10,000 survived to make it to the bluff. He was there with people dying all around him. He was with Patton in the Battle of the Bulge. He actually relayed a message to the British general, Montgomery, thank you, very good. And they came back again. He was one of the first scouts to detect one of the death camps. And I think of him and all that he went through, and how important it is for us to remember freedom. And he really appreciates our freedom. Well, the city of Lake Elsinore has decided and voted to produce a war memorial. And on that war memorial, it shows a cemetery, a foreign cemetery, World War II, presumably. And on that cemetery, it has a row of crosses and some stars of David for grave markers, like as they did. And there it shows a soldier kneeling, and presumably maybe praying or just in solemn remembrance of those who died and didn't make it to the top of the bluff. And then there's an American eagle in the background, an American flag, and a saying which says, freedom is never free. Well, a lawsuit has been challenged. To file to challenge this by an atheist organization, I think it's Humanists of America. And they filed this lawsuit, and we have been working with the city of Lake Elsinore from the beginning, because they, like many others, I'm sure, were tempted to capitulate, because it costs a lot to defend against these lawsuits. And we at Pacific Justice have made a commitment to every city, every community, every county in the United States of America that we will represent them without charge from day one all the way to the Supreme Court on these cases. And that's exactly what we're doing in this case. We're very pleased and privileged and honored. And when I do so, I think of my Uncle Bill and the sacrifice that he and so many went through for our freedoms, for our liberties, to make a difference. There's so many other challenges we're having faced. I know we have a Q&A now time, but I want to be sensitive to that. I got to say, originally I was thinking, about talking about Benghazi. That was the most incredible thing to talk about. But then, of course, there was the IRS travesty and tyranny, which I thought it's got to be the worst that I've ever seen. So I was going to talk. Then I heard about the government, the executive branch, tapping into the wire lines of reporters in the AP press and trying to get one reporter from Fox News and his parents and everything. I thought, that's got to be the worst. Then I heard about the EPA selectively granting waivers for some and not the other, ganging up on conservative groups and giving lots of favoritism to liberals. I thought, oh, even the EPA. Surely this has got to be the end. And then I have witnessed the greatest travesty I've ever seen with regards to our Constitution in many ways. And that is the observation of realizing that 113 million Americans who have Verizon, and I'm one of them, have been having their phones monitored as to who we're contacting, when we're contacting, who they're contacting, by the state. A travesty that I would have expected from some novel about the KGB, but not the United States of America. Our Fourth Amendment, I'm just going to read this briefly if I may. The Fourth Amendment is really clear. It says the right of the people, it's there to protect the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Very specific, very narrow, very explicit. And this administration has treated the Fourth Amendment like it is nothing. And I'm telling you now, our organization, I'm sure along with others, are right now aggressively investigating how we are going to hold this administration accountable. We cannot surrender. With that, it's time for some questions. And by the way, there's probably going to be one or two that I'm not going to have an answer to because you guys are hard. You're really hard. So that's okay. That's okay.
All right. Isn't the author of Senate Bill 323, that's the one about the tax exemption for LGBT or all that, is that author under investigation by the FBI?
The first question, I don't know the answer. Is it Laura? Help me here, Tim. Ricardo, Laura, he knew the answer. He's being gracious. Thank you. Is that true? She's under investigation by the FBI? You know, that is true. Wow. Well, I learned something new. So, but I'm not surprised in many ways. It's a shame for anyone in law enforcement, or anyone in public service, to be under investigation by the FBI. I don't rejoice in that, but it is interesting that the one who's showing this disrespect for our Constitution and our civil rights is presently under investigation by the FBI. So we'll see how that turns out.
Okay. When a law is passed and it's sued in court, can the law be suspended so it's not enforced while it's in court?
Yes. SB 1172 is something that we've actually achieved that, at least on partial with regard to our plaintiffs. Anyone who needs that protection as a counselor just simply needs to contact our office, and we can petition to have them added onto that preliminary injunction motion for protection. But absolutely, and that's why we do that aggressively. Sometimes they won't grant a stay of its enforcement, sometimes they do. And I am very pleased that we have a federal judge, a very seasoned federal judge that was willing to take that action. And so, and that's what we'll be looking to do, frankly, when we do file these actions regarding SB 323, because the damage and harm is very severe to those that they're allegedly trying to help. And I think there's a very compelling argument as to why, for the sake of the children, all children, it needs to be suspended.
And then what is separation of church and state? What does that mean? And I think that's, do they mean separation from religion, separation of religion?
Yeah, I never heard that before. Don't excuse me. When I was in law school at the University of Texas, it's a good law school, by the way. I really enjoyed law school, actually. But I had a professor, he was a member of the ACLU. He was teaching employment discrimination. I'll never forget it when in class he said, you know, that's why the Constitution, the First Amendment, protects freedom from religion. And he said that just off the cuff, and he starts to do his lecture, and I said, excuse me, professor, excuse me. Okay, yes, Brett. Yeah, I just want to make it clear, I think you said freedom from religion. Excuse me, isn't it freedom of religion, professor? He looks at her and says, oh yeah, that's right, it's freedom of religion. And he moves on. And that's that mindset. And the concept of separation of church and state is about that whole kind of philosophy. Reality was, it was in a letter, and written, you guys know the history of this and the whole context of that letter, back written 200 years ago, was in the context of defending and protecting the church from the government, from the state. And then in a decision in the early 1940s, it was referenced in a reverse way of separation of church and state, that is, the government cannot be engaged in things or do things that are benevolent and in any way towards religion. And actually the case actually went for the religion side, but that's where they dropped the first usage of that in an errant way. And they tried to tie it to the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. It is not what the Constitution says. And in fact, the good news, the majority of the Supreme Court established case law is not for strict separation. Strict separationists do not have a majority. They have 4 votes, not 5. The majority of this court actually recognizes and has upheld the constitutionality of governmental benign neutrality and accommodation of religion. recognizing that religion plays a very valid overall secular role for the benefit of our society and our nation. So the good news is we actually have case law more on our side than the other side. We need to work it and we need to push it. And like in this war memorial, for example, I think it's going to be a fantastic precedent that we're going to end up with after everything's all said and done. So I'm very excited about that. And,
Last question, toughest of the night for our guest. How important is it that we contribute to the Pacific Justice Institute? We sign up for your email alerts, we go to your Gender Insanity website, we follow the, we get active and call our legislature. How important is that? Is it extremely important or is it vitally important?
it's really not that important. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jim. This guy's great. I paid him $50 and he does all the pictures. But seriously though, it's extremely important. You guys have a tremendous ability to network, get information out. We have a Facebook, for example, Pacific Justice, and we would love to have that distributed, get as many likes as possible on there so we can get our information out. Genderinsanity.com or .org. That is a fantastic website. There's a petition you can download. You can help get people to sign that. It's not just a fluffy petition, you know what I'm talking about, where sometimes just fluff petitions to get people on database. We don't do that. It's a real petition to change real attitudes of pending legislators on this pending legislation. That could be fantastic. So if you go there, it'd be wonderful. If you can fill out that information, we'll keep you guys updated. And then you be sure to give us your email address and we'll keep you updated on that. And then forward those out and send those out. We are a nonprofit. I have no rich uncle from Texas who has a bunch of oil wells. That's not me. We are working hard, and it's because of people like you who are part of our team, and I never, ever forget that. So thank you very much. And by the way, although I'm technically a guest speaker, I'm really not a guest speaker because to be a guest means you're really not a part of something. And I have long been and will always be committed to be a part of the Tea Party movement in this country until we have our Constitution back.
Vanna White here. I just want to show, we wanted for both of our guest speakers, we have our very attractive coffee cups that for a $10 donation, but it's given to our guests for free to thank them for donating their time to come out to us. It is our Tea Party values of constitutional limited government, fiscal responsibility, and free market solutions, and the most awesome design on the front. So thank you.